Hello and welcome. This is Jasur from Shanghai Silk Road. In this video, I would like to talk about once again how to register a company in China as a foreigner. If you browse through our channel, you can find a lot of videos on this topic, but it's been a while since we talked about this, so I've decided to make another up-to-date video. Generally speaking, requirements for company formation in China have not changed. They are the same, but let me repeat once again. I would like to start by mentioning that first and foremost, you need to consider if you can send your company directly to China, because if you cannot send your company directly to China, then your company will not be able to open a company bank account. Why do I start with this? It's obvious because during the pandemic, it's not been easy to travel to China. But right now, there are ways. There are so many foreigners going back to China through Hong Kong. You can Google them or you can contact us. We can try to help you actually. So this is number one. Number two is what are the requirements, general requirements to start a company in China as a foreigner. And this company type is going to be LTD. In other words, wholly foreign owned enterprise. That means 100% owned by foreign shareholders. So number one requirement is obviously shareholders. So this type of company can have up to 50 shareholders. That can be a mixture of individual and corporate shareholder or even one type. It does not matter. For example, you can have a corporate shareholder as well, which might own 100% or some of the shares, or you can have multiple individual shareholders. They can own different shares basically, or it can be one shareholder, individual shareholder or corporate shareholder, which owns 100% of the company. So it really doesn't matter as long as it's up to 50, okay, from 1 to 50. Number two is obviously the required positions, because when you form a company in China as a foreigner, there are two required positions. Number one is company director. Company director should be only individual, okay, and only one company director is allowed. Yeah, many people make this mistake that maybe they confuse it with Hong Kong or other countries. They start by saying to us, like when they contact, they say, okay, we are two directors. No, it doesn't work like that in China. In China, actually, one individual director is allowed. That's it. So it can be yourself. I mean, the main person who is trying to form this company, we recommend usually that person will be the director, because he or she, first of all, in usual cases, they own the company 100% as an individual shareholder. And then we recommend them to be the director because normally they want to relocate to China with their work visa, etc. So this is director. Another required position is company supervisor. Company supervisor as well can only be individual, and that's only one individual, okay? Cannot be more than one. And supervisor is, in other words, it's a company manager. But in reality, in practice, company supervisor, aka manager, they don't have any day-to-day responsibilities in the company. It's just on the paper. The reason why the government requires it is basically to divide the responsibility in the company into two foreigners, or foreigners and Chinese. By the way, yeah, you can have a Chinese director or you can have a Chinese supervisor as well. Or if you decide so, you can have both of them Chinese citizens as well. And yourself, you can take in another position as well, like assistant director or assistant manager, etc. Because there are not the positions are not limited. It's the internal policy of the company. You get to decide it, how many positions, but minimum director and supervisor. Okay, both of them can be, like I said, of different nationality. But most important thing, like I mentioned in the beginning, company director should be able to go to the bank in person It doesn't work with power of attorney. Unfortunately, banks do not accept power of attorney in order to open a corporate bank account in China. So company director must travel to China. So for that reason, I always recommend people considering this option first. Okay, maybe you need to contact the embassy and solve the visa arrangements first. Make sure you can travel to China. Or another alternative is always you can find somebody maybe you can trust in China and appoint them as your company director, at least temporarily. Okay, so these are the required positions. Next thing is obviously registered capital. Registered capital is different from paid up capital. In China, there is no paid up capital. It means that registered capital is only on the paper. Required amount for consulting companies is 100,000 USD. For trading companies, import and export companies, around 300,000 USD. What does it mean to put it on the paper? Basically, when you're registering the company, you are kind of saying to the government that this is the amount that we are planning to inject over the course of our business. So what does this over the course mean? Basically, in China, your business license is given for 30 years. So during that validity, 30 years, you are expected to inject that capital from the paper that you've wrote down. Like, for example, 100,000 for consulting company and 300,000 for import and export company. So 30 years, you have this time frame to inject that capital. But what happens if you decide to shut it down after a couple of years without injecting this capital? The answer is nothing will happen. Chinese law actually lets company owners to close the company, liquidate it, without injecting any capital. You can do your due diligence, you can do your research on the internet. Company law actually does not specify that it is mandatory to inject that capital. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, in 2016 or 2015, there was this addition to the law which eliminated all the requirements. So now registered capital is not mandatory to inject, but if you continue doing business, it's recommended that you inject it because why? There are some advantages to it. If you inject the registered capital, obviously it will be easy for you to sign agreements with bigger companies in China. Why? Because this kind of information is public. And number one. Number two is if you inject the registered capital, this information will be seen on government database. It means that you have committed to doing business in China seriously, right? It proves your commitment. So therefore, your potential partners, potential clients maybe even, or potential suppliers maybe even, like I'm talking about bigger companies in China, they always do due diligence on the companies. So when they check your company's status on government database, which is public, they find out that you've injected that capital. It means that you're serious. So potentially they will agree to sign an agreement with you. And next, some other advantages is there are some licenses. For example, exporting heavy machinery. There are specific types of heavy machinery. This kind of activity requires special licensing. But in order to apply for that special licensing, this registered capital should be injected. Government does not review applications from companies whose registered capital is not injected. Okay, so all in all, it depends on your business plans whether to inject this registered capital or not, and also it depends on your business type, basically, whether it's a consulting company. Most of the time consulting companies do not inject, but when it comes to import and export trading companies, it's better to inject that to enjoy more benefits, all right, on the way. So after that, so this is registered capital. Okay, after that, so basically, like technically speaking, these are the like core requirements to register the company. in China. But then again, opening a bank account, you need to maintain at least one RMB account in the place of registration. Many people do this mistake as well. Sometimes they again confuse it with companies in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, you can have your company registered and then have your bank account elsewhere. But in China, it doesn't work like that. So that's why I mentioned company director should be able to physically travel to China in order to open this main account of the company. So it means that you need to open a company in China and you have to open an RMB account, Chinese yuan, for your company in China in the place of registration. For example, if your company is registered in Shanghai, your RMB main account should be in Shanghai as well. This is for tax purposes. Otherwise, you cannot register your company in a tax department, and therefore you will not be able to pay taxes. Therefore, the company will not be active. Okay. So generally speaking, these are the basic requirements to register a company in China as a foreigner. And people often ask us, can I have a Chinese partner, like shareholder? The answer is yes, it's 100% allowed. You can have like 50% yourself, or however percentage you decide. It's up to you. But you can have a Chinese partner. And but many people actually again make this mistake that if I have a Chinese partner, maybe it will open further doors. Maybe it will widen our business activities, or maybe enable our company to do business in some of the restricted areas. But unfortunately, that's not the case, guys. Even if you have a Chinese partner, it doesn't mean your company will be able to be active in some of the restricted areas. Still, your company is called foreign invested company. That's it. When you can open such restricted doors, actually it's only in the case of Chinese owned company. So that is another topic in its own. Maybe we will do another video on that, because there are some foreigners working with Chinese owned companies on the basis of agreements, meaning, for example, you can have a US company or you can have a Hong Kong company, and you can sign a long-term agreement with a Chinese-owned company, and through that you might invest in some restricted areas of business in China. But like I said, this is another topic, not for today. Again, generally speaking, as a foreigner, you can always open a this foreign invested company. Okay, it can be partnership, like I explained. It can be wholly owned, 100%, by yourself. And also in previous videos, I also mentioned that you can only open one single shareholder company in China. For example, if you register a company in Shanghai as a single owner, 100% owner, and you decide to register another entity in maybe in a different city, in Guangzhou maybe, you will not be allowed to do so. Okay, so it's only one 100% owned single shareholder company for foreigners allowed. The next company should be a partnership. All right. So below this video, actually, you can find a link to register a company in China as a foreigner. You can click on that link, and the process is kind of automated. You can start registering a company on this website. Actually, JR & Firm is our US company. We are trying to divide our activities. Shanghai Silk Road, generally speaking, is a corporate legal consultancy and plus trading company. I mentioned this several times, but now we have our US company, JR & Firm. So we are dividing from the activities from trading to corporate consulting. JR & Firm, our US company, is kind of right now responsible for corporate consultancy alone, but for Shanghai Silk Road, we now have our trading activities only. We have different channels on YouTube for example, sourcing and quality assurance. These are carried out by our Shanghai Silk Road, okay, in China.